Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the QRL Show, the place where you come for the crypto and stay for the quantum. I am joined today by our lead blockchain developer, Kashal Kumar Singh, and my co-host, Michael Strike, for an exciting AMA on development and the exciting lead up to Zond with mainnet. First off, to kick it off, Michael and Kashal, as always, good to have you guys both with me.
Yeah, we have some questions that the community submitted and looking forward to answering.
Yeah. For those of you that are watching at home, what you'll be getting out of this episode is we're going to be covering a number of questions that were pulled from online and quite a variety of questions. Some of them kind of overlapped a little bit. Some are around stuff between testnet now and Zond mainnet. Other questions intertwine with how to build and deploy today on testnet. So if you stay by the end, you're going to have a lot more understanding of what you can do today and just be really excited for what's around the corner with Zond and mainnet. To kick off today's AMA, I think a great first question, both to you, Michael, and to you, Kashal, is a nice refresher for those that are already in our growing QRL community. And for those of you that are new, let's start out by touching on what is QRL, what is Zond within that, and we'll jump into this exciting AMA.
Yeah, I guess I can open with that one. So if you're new to the project, the quantum resistant ledger was the first blockchain in the ecosystem in 2000, conceived in 2016. First block was 2018. We're the first ones to use NAST grade post quantum cryptography since the first block, and you have to integrate post quantum cryptography since the first block. Otherwise, you run into all sorts of problems with elliptical curve cryptography and it's asymmetric encryption that are vulnerable to sufficiently powerful quantum computers. So that's it in a nutshell. If you're unfamiliar with our project, and we've been doing this for 7 years now. Seven. Yep.
Yep, 7 and almost going on a decade with the first code commit. So
Yeah.
Quite a long time. Michael, I'll let you kick it off for as we have our lead blockchain developer and Kashal with us today for the AMA. I think it would be really good to start out with a couple questions that are focused and geared around developers onboarding. We're at the testnet stage right now, but there's still some stuff that people can start to look into. So if you could kick us off with a couple of those questions, that would be perfect as to start out, maybe with the developing and deploy question first and go from there.
Sure. So, what are these are so these are the questions that came in from the community. If you don't see your question read out directly, we did condense and consolidate some of them, and so if you don't hear yours, we did read through them all.
Yeah, we also had quite just a plethora. We probably would have a 2-3 hour episode with all of them. So if you send in a question, awesome. We're going to have upcoming AMAs to cover as well. But back to you on that strike.
Okay, so I didn't want anyone in the community to feel left out. But for first question, as an ETH developer, if I were an ETH developer, can I develop and deploy today? How does beta testnet work right now? How do I deploy it, and what can I do?
When you say as an ETH developer, I'm considering you mean a smart contract developer on Ethereum. So right now on Zond, you can basically do all of the stuff that you are expecting to do on a smart contract. You can write a smart contract code for Zond, then you can compile it, you can deploy that, you can even interact with it. Along with that, we do have support with the Chrome extension wallet, which is very much similar to that of, like, you can say it kind of a MetaMask for the Zond. So we do have our Chrome extension wallet, which allows you to interact with your dApp that you create on Zond using the smart contract and some JavaScript stuff and all those stuff. So yeah, you can do basically everything that you are doing on Ethereum as a smart contract developer. You may have some like lack of libraries like Open Zeppelin and all those stuff, but otherwise there's no restrictions like you cannot do some stuff. You can do everything. You can even make a dex, you can make something like Uniswap, something like that. You can make a small projects or anything. You can even make some games that is using blockchain. So there's no limit on that, but you can do everything on that blockchain. So yeah.
So these are all capabilities that exist in testnet today.
Yeah, they can, but as I
That's
mentioned, they
really
will
helpful.
face,
Yeah.
yeah, they may face small issues like the lack of libraries like Open Zeppelin, but other than that, they can do everything. They can create UI stuffs for this, for the DApp interaction, everything. They can do all of the things that are possible in Ethereum blockchain. So there is no limitations. When the only limitation is the lack of some libraries which are very often used on Ethereum blockchain. But we do have plan to have that at the later stage. So but that doesn't restrict you on making anything that you can do on Ethereum. So you can make everything whatever you want on the Zond blockchain, even if it is on betanet or testnet stage.
Yeah, can you? And I'm going to piggyback on this question because I think this is important, and a number of people that are watching this episode might have it as well. Can you give a little more context in terms of, you just touched on, hey, you can do this right now in testnet. Can you sell us a little bit on some, maybe the benefit, obviously, that, being early part on, as opposed to maybe waiting until mainnet's here? What are maybe a couple of the benefits or advantages of getting into it now? I know they might have a couple more hurdles or some tweaks and things a little differently during this testnet stage, but what are a couple of the benefits of maybe someone starting to build something, whether they want to build a game or fill in the blank in next month in November, or over the holidays upcoming, and they know they want to have it fully functioning, ready to go come mainnet, but they want to get the MVP out. What are some of the benefits of doing that now as opposed to waiting?
So the first benefit is they are going to get the first mover advantage, which means you are going to know how the whole QRL Zond ecosystem works, because the cryptography that we are using is basically the post quantum cryptographies. So you get acquainted of all of those ecosystem, how things works, how thing doesn't work, what I should take care of. Another thing is because it's going to be a new blockchain with the EVM support, uh, and with the post quantum cryptography. So the first thing is like you can make your product or whatever you are building get tested by the community, or let the people know that you are building something on the QRL blockchain, so the QRL community will be aware of that, which means you are basically trying to build a trust or something with the people, and they already know that you are building something. So maybe when you actually release that, you will be far ahead from someone else who is going to start building and releasing something after we have released the mainnet.
There's a lot of talk right now about post quantum security, a lot of concerns about Bitcoin, things like that. So essentially, just to kind of summarize what you're saying is, we are running testnet, and just for those unfamiliar, Zond is the hard fork name of essentially what is QRL 2.0. We're essentially 1.0 right now. QRL 2.0. Zond is the hard fork code name. But right now, you have the ability to deploy your existing you take your existing smart contract or EVM off from Ethereum and Solidity and recompile it and put it onto our Zond blockchain, and essentially gain first mover advantage. To me, that's huge. I don't know of any other coin or chain that you can do that right now that uses NIST grade security, and that you can start playing with today, that's post quantum secure since the first block, and that's been doing it as long as we have. So to me, this is quite fun, interesting, sensational.
Yeah, thanks for with you touching on that, Kashal. That really,
Yeah,
that hopefully that answered it for the viewers. Maybe wondering on that of, hey, you should really start building now if you have the aim to do that. There's clear benefits there. Strike, can you touch on it? There's one or two follow up questions that we pulled from the community in
yeah.
terms of one around the recompiling, and then the other what's required, and then another one on the forklift aspect. Let's touch
So
into these ones.
one question that's coming up a bit is users know now, because we just mentioned that you can compile and run on Zond testnet. Uh, where do they go for information on that? How do they start? And how are we planning on enabling Ethereum developers to bootstrap them in a way that gives them the best, easiest path to success? So how are we planning on making that easy, and where can they go and get started now?
So there are different strategies to do that. Many times, developers prefer that they build apps and test apps on their private network. It happens many times. Like even when I tried to develop something on the Ethereum network, I thought like if I would have a private network, I could just play with everything, whatever I want to do, or I don't need to wait for something. uh, or it also helps me in debugging and all those stuff. So we do have support for the private network. If you want to test something completely on your own private network with QRL Zone, you can use our documentation where we have already mentioned like how you can use kurtosis and all those stuff to spin up your private network in just few commands, and then you can start building apps and start testing on your private network. Because it's a private network, you don't need to worry about uh, any issues like network issues or anything like that, because we are on test phase, so sometimes we have to fix a couple of stuff. So when it's running on private network, you are completely free from all those issues that may happen, or even waiting for some funds, someone to give you token, and then you start doing some stuff. So you can do all your whatever imagination you have on your private network, and that's the best thing that developers prefer to have when they are building something. Other than that, we do have lots of libraries along with the documentation, such as Web3.js library, which is the major thing that people require when they are developing applications on any blockchain. So we have a Web3.js library. We do have Chrome extension wallet, which I already mentioned, along with the examples. So you can look into those documentation and examples, how you can uh, write something on your dApp to interact with a Chrome extension wallet. Like if you want to make a transaction by clicking a button, you just have some calls that you have to make, and it will automatically trigger the Chrome extension wallet, similar to that of like MetaMask, as it happens on the MetaMask stuff. So this way, we are trying to make things easier for them. So we do have documentation. We can, I think that is already available. Those documentation are already available on GitHub repositories as well as on the zondocs.ql.org. So yeah, and we are also working on updating, adding more documentation to make things easier. So whenever it comes to the development, documentation plays a crucial part to it, because that's where people start learning about things like how they can start with. But for the Chrome extension wallet, because it helps people to make UI stuffs and interact with the uh, dApps. So we have taken care of all the examples for every single RPC command that is available for this Chrome extension wallet. We have already go have the examples code, like how you can do all those stuff. So yeah, documentation is the key point. Other than that, if you are finding some difficulties, like you do not know, you are looking for something but you do not know whether it is there or not, you can always contact us. We are happy to help you or point you to the right direction if that is needed. So we have everything for people to start, from documentation to support to private network to public network, whatever they want to prefer.
Where would be the first hop? First thing, I want to go do something right now and get started today. Where do I go?
I think first thing that you, if you want to start with the documentation, right?
Okay.
Because yeah, because many times what happens, if I'm trying to develop an application, I might not prefer to run my own node. So it depends upon how people start. So it always start with the documentation. If you want to start your own private network, or then there is a specific documentation how you can start the QRL Zone node. If you don't want to start any of the network, you just want to use the existing public node, which is the testnet node, which is running. You just want to play with that by making RPCs or API calls to them, and then deploy your smart contract. You can do that too. For that, you will need token or something like that, for which you can always contact to one of the team member on Discord channel. But documentation is always the first point of uh, uh, place to start with.
So why don't we do this? Ryan will in the notes on YouTube. We'll drop in the links.
Yep. And
2
on the
links.
documentation,
Click here,
yeah,
click there, click here. This is how you can get started, and you
yeah,
can tell if you're an existing Ethereum contract, you'll be able to tell, hey, we are working on post quantum security for our project,
yeah.
and
And
we're
I'll
doing that with
emphasize,
QRLs on.
yeah, and I'll emphasize just I'm piggybacking on what Kushal said even further on the 2 points that I think are really important. If you do hit a roadblock or get stuck early on within, as you're going through documentation, don't hesitate, whether it's reaching out through Discord or our support. And another important note is as we progress towards mainnet, we're going to have a lot more expansive documentation that's covering different situations, whether it be edge cases. Obviously, people are building different applications. They're not all the same. So they might need different steps as they go through the flow. So Kushal, thank you for touching on that based on the
Yeah.
question, and then obviously Strike's added a question onto that. I think a good one, maybe the next one. Do you want to touch on this forklift one, or is that one tied? I think enough to maybe that one or the one below it. Strike is the next AMA question. Forklifting, and then we got the
Sure.
niche.
So
Yeah.
I think let me check. Let me double check what the
And
question
let me
was.
know if that one's covered. I can go into the niche one, and I think you have this
I
next
think the
one.
question
So
was how difficult or what's involved in order to forklift an existing contract over to the
Zond.
Zond hard fork.
Yeah.
What does that look like in brevity?
So when you are moving your smart contract or your code from Ethereum blockchain to QRL Zond, most of the things are going to remain the same. The changes that you have to deal with is the address format, because we have a different address format. Usually smart contract doesn't have any hard coded address format, but if they have any hard coded address, they need to deal with that. Other than that, if they are playing anything with like signature verification or something like that, then because we are using a different cryptography, which is MLDS 87 and Sphinx plus, so in that case you have to take care of that too, because we are going to bring some opcodes to do those verification on smart contract, which is also possible in Ethereum. Like in Ethereum, if you are signing a transaction, you can also do some stuffs like verification of the cryptographies of this or the signatures on the smart contract itself. So usually dApps doesn't deal with that, but if your smart contract is dealing something like that, then you have to take care of that. Other than that, I think most of the things are going to remain same as it is. So most of the things you don't need to change. Of course, the first line would change, because whenever you write a smart contract on Ethereum, the first line starts with pragma and then solidity and then the version. In our case, we call it Hyperion. So when you are having any smart contract, you need to replace that first line with pragma, Hyperion, and then whatever the latest Hyperion version that you are using, so you need to replace that. uh, Other than that, like 80 to 90% of the code is going to remain the same. I don't see any changes with them. And maybe most of the time, like all of them would remain as it is, because most of the smart contract doesn't deal with the things that we have made any changes to that. But yeah, first line is going to be changed from pragma solidity to pragma Hyperion.
That's a good one there. I think continuing the AMA, I have a question that I think we haven't quite a number through, a couple here to go for with you, Kushal. Still, I have one that I want to get Strike your take on, and this is a question from a community member, and that is you can piggyback on this one as well, Kushal. And what niche in the crypto industry or space does QRL aim to occupy? And they added on to this with BTC actively preparing for the quantum security. If they manage to implement it in time, what utility does QRL have that BTC or future quantum secure BTC wouldn't? Let's unpack this one.
Sure, I can handle that. Essentially, it is what is QRL's per, you know proposition value, right? So
Yep.
what is it that we do? What's our niche? So with respect to this is I'm going to answer the question in respect of the Bitcoin, but it also generally applies to all other altcoins. So in order for people really have a tendency to underestimate what it takes to migrate Bitcoin to post quantum security. A lot of times the answer is, well, they'll just hard fork. Well, as it is in life, It's the details that sometimes become important. And in this case, there's a lot of details. First off, the community and cryptographers across the globe would need to agree on a new post quantum secure DSA. That's a no-brainer. That's a given. But what a lot of people also don't realize is this is also an ideological debate. A lot of people in the Bitcoin community are opposed to change. Some fear complexity. Some don't want to do anything until quantum computers are real. Like, for example, in 2015, 2017, there was the block size scaling wars, which resulted in BCH, Bitcoin Cash. There was a SegWit activation debate. There was the Taproot activation, and a lot of energy went into not developing necessarily the code, but also the ideology behind what blockchain is, and that can be very divisive when it comes to something like Bitcoin, where people are so passionate about it. So just agreeing to make a change to Bitcoin is quite invasive. So you'd have to write up a new BIP, right? Agree on new witness script types, address formats, decide on an activation block number for the new DSA once you've decided on it. Bitcoin Core, all nodes, all wallets, all exchanges, all hardware devices, anything that uses Bitcoin essentially needs to be updated. So that by just the wallets and the exchanges and all of this, you all need to reach consensus on when this is happening based on my previous point of a block number. So that, and every user is going to have to manually spend their Bitcoins into some sort of post-quantum secure hybrid address. And quite simply, there's no way to reach all users on Bitcoin. And, some users are going to be unalive. Some people might see that as an advantage and that it's deflation and increases the value of Bitcoin, possibly. But at the end of the day, you will not be able to migrate all of the Bitcoin. It's not going to happen. Higher level protocols like Lightning and multisig, Vault, Scripts, all of those need to be aware of post-quantum secures, and we'll also need to have the legacy DSAs deprecated.
Address reuse. That's another big.
Yeah.
There's all sorts. It's very hairy. Yeah.
You probably have to adjust the mempool fee rules for larger post-quantum signatures. You'd have to encourage everyone to early migration. And then you'd eventually have to pick a block number, reach consensus, and disable the legacy DSAs so that only post-quantum secure transactions are allowed. Now, there was a study. We had some guests on the show, Ryan. I think it was like 6
University of Kent 75-day stoppage, and that's just talking about it in theory as well. Like it's much more complex in reality. Yeah.
So the processing time on the Bitcoin network based on the TPS right now, it's going to take 2 to 3 months of, some people call it downtime. I don't necessarily think it's downtime because they'd be migration transactions interlaced with regular transactions, but we'll say it's 70 plus days, 2 to 3 months of processing time out of the Bitcoin network just to be able to migrate the addresses. And this is the largest blockchain ecosystem. It all has to reach consensus on all of the things that I just mentioned ahead of time, and they all have to do it, and without any problems within an unknown time window, without crashing the chain, before a sufficiently large quantum computer exists. So Bitcoin's at like 2.3 trillion market cap. 2.3 trillion market cap. Crypto, I think, is like 4 trillion right now. All of this variability, and based on what I just said, it's inarguable that it's a non-zero. There is a non-zero probability of risk here. Now it's up to everyone to determine what their risk exposure is, but it's definitely non-zero. And for me, it's not the quantum computers that we know about that concerns me. It's the ones that we don't know about. There is no incentive for people developing the most powerful quantum computers outside of IBM and the large caps that need to report to stockholders and show value for the earnings. There is no incentive. In fact, there are strong disincentives for them to to communicate the actual processing or capabilities of the quantum computers that they're working on. Because at this point, we're talking about bank transactions, we're talking about state secrets, we're talking about cryptography that extends way beyond blockchain. So
yeah, and we have a plethora of other content that touches on this. I know that's a little bit outside of the purview of our AMA tied to development, but it's a valid question that probably a number of newcomers as well as those in the QRL community um, either had themselves or probably other people are asking them as well. So to segue us back into, first off, Strike, thanks for covering that. It's a very meaty question. Segueing us back into the AMA, the continuation of these questions for Kushal here. How will this next one is, how will the migration of legacy XMS addresses work? And will it use a smart contract? Will the process be automatic, require manual steps for the user? If you could expand on this one a little bit, I think back into these dev related questions, this is a good one. We can continue wrapping up the last few AMA questions from here.
Right now, the idea is to get the state of the existing QRL blockchain. So what we are planning to do is we will have a specific block number before the Zond release or the Zond mainnet QRL Zond mainnet release. So we will have a specific block number where QRL uh, proof of work blockchain will stop mining or creating any further blocks. And once that will halt, it will stop mining any new blocks. What we are going to do is we are going to take the snapshot of whatever the address, all the XMSS address state is, like how much balance do they hold, whatever OTS keys they have already used or which are still unused. Once that snapshot is taken, then that data will be added to the smart contract, which will be used for migration. So the QRLs on smart contract will know like which which XMSS address holds how much balance, which OTS indices has already been used, and then when the QRL Zond will release, user will have an option to do the migration automatically without, like, they do need to manually sign few stuffs, but that will happen without any third party or any intermediary coming in between. So it's like you just sign the transaction from your XMSS address with your unused OTS indices. You will provide the new QRL Zond address where all of your funds will move on. And once you just submit that transactions, and we will have that applications or some Chrome extension wallet supporting all those stuffs. Once you submit that transaction, smart contract will verify if that OTS indices is actually unused one, if the signature is correct. If everything is good and okay, then smart contract will move the funds from your XMSS address to the new QR zone address. And that's the current plan right now. But we have to do a POC, proof of concept stuff, and need to see like how much data we could push on the Genesis block or what other stuff we need to take care of. But that's the rough idea, because we see that's the easiest way for people to allow them to migrate without interacting with us or anyone in the team.
Perfect. I have one or two questions. I grouped a couple. There was I have one or two, and then I think maybe Michael, you can end out with the audit one after that as we wrap stuff up. One or two people had questions around the web wallet. I know you touched on this in one of the earliest questions in terms of being MetaMask-like. Could you just expand on this just for briefly in terms of what is the web wallet going to look like for those that are curious on this one?
Okay, yeah, sure. So for now, we already have a wallet, which I already mentioned, the Chrome extension wallet, which is very much similar to MetaMask, does all the functionalities, like you can generate address, you can add multiple addresses, and then you can send tokens, funds. You can do all of those things from there. So for the web wallet, we are planning to have the similar code that we are using for the Chrome extension wallet, just to move that from the Chrome extension to the web version of it. So we are planning to keep the same code, but having a different release type. One for the Chrome extension format, other is just like for the web based, so that people, not everyone need to install the web wallet. They can directly use that. Sorry, not everyone has to use the Chrome extension wallet. They can directly use the web wallet. So yeah, that's the overall plan. So whatever the Chrome extension wallet looks like, you can just expect the web wallet will look very much similar to that.
Perfect. Michael, you wanna do the? I might have a question or so on
Yeah,
tooling,
there
but
was
you want to do the audit question? You read that
someone.
one out.
Someone
Yeah.
had asked, is an arrangement with an auditor or auditors already arranged? What's the scope for the audit? And can you mention which auditors are considered? Essentially, what does auditing for Zon look like for the Zon hard fork?
So for the audit, I mean, we are going to make like audit for the Zond, for the Chrism, which is the client for the Zond, and then we are also have planned to get audited our cryptography library, which is QRL lib, Go QRL lib, and then we do have plan for the audit of the Web3.js libraries, Chrome extension wallet. So all the critical components, wherever it takes a wallet or secret key some as an input, all of them will be covered under the audit. So those are the critical repositories which will be under audit. Other than that, if we find something new, like of course Explorer and all those will be audited too, but the idea is to make sure that the critical component get audited first, because once that is audited, we are good to release the stuff. Other stuff which are not very much critical, they will still be audited, but the idea is uh, that will not halt the release of the QRL zond or something like that.
These are all
Yeah.
third part. I mean, they're all third party,
Yeah. Top of class.
top of class auditors. Do you know if we're doing one or two?
Yeah, so we have planned for at least one audit, of course, but yeah, I'm preferring that there would be at least two auditors who would be auditing stuff for at least for the QRL Zond and the Chrism, for those two stuffs, because those are the most critical component of the whole blockchain. Other than that, for Explorer and for like web wallet, one audit is okay, but if you want to go for more than one, that would be a part of an internal discussion. But yeah, two audits is something that we are looking for, at least for the Chrism and the goes on.
NIST grade cryptography since the first block, third party audited, Solidity essentially friendly for for 7 years. I mean, it just I don't think it exists anywhere. So
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting stuff. Kushal, Michael, and I, obviously we've had you on AMAs. We're looking forward to upcoming ones as well. But as kind of a closeout question, I know you touched on this, is a great place to start for people. We're going to put a couple links underneath this AMA. Is there any other last notes in terms of what people can touch today? Just as a closeout, it could be just you retelling what we mentioned earlier. But for those developers, builders that are sitting at their keyboard, kind of, maybe getting a little hint of excitement there as they're listening to Strike touch on those couple bullet points a second ago. What can they do now? What can they do this month? What can they do in finishing out Q4 of 2025 strong, tied to where they're at and what they can build and have capabilities to do with Zond?
So they can do, like as I mentioned, they can do everything on the QRL Zond blockchain. But yeah, the first thing that I would advise anyone who is trying to connect or do something on the QRL Zond, they should join our Discord community, because anything that happens with the network, any fix or any new release or testnet reset, we first announce that on the Discord channel. So if they know that something is happening, they would not be spending time on some freaky or something odd stuff's happening on their side if they are using some APIs and connecting with the public network. So first thing that I would advise everyone to join the Discord community, so that they can keep themselves up to date what's happening in the project, what are changes are happening, what new cryptography is coming, which one. We do have a great people in our community who will also love to help you in case you got any questions, you got anything confusing you, or just halting or hindering your progress, anything like that. You can always ask them. It's not necessary that you always need help from the team. There are great people in our community who will help you. And the documentation is the first part, where if you are trying to develop something, or even if you are not trying to develop anything but you just want to install the QRL Zone node on your system, you just want to see how things are going to work, always look into the documentation. It gets updated every time we reset the testnet or we do something, we make some fix or something like that. So yeah.
the community will help too. They've been in there. Some of them been in there for 7, 8 years.
Yeah, if you're new, introduce yourself. Thank you, Kushal. Thank you, Michael. For those of you watching, Stay tuned for upcoming content that's going to be around everything our project
Yeah.
is around and the ethos of that. We're going
Fun
to have a
stuff
lot of
to come.
exciting stuff coming up, and there's a lot of stuff going on internally, but it's really nice to be able to get on here with both of you and be able to share a ton of that publicly based on some great questions that came in. And until next time, make sure to have a great rest of the day and keep those digital assets post-quantum secure. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.